Winchester Facts. Separating fact from fantasy in our town's government.
Well, good evening, folks. My name is Michael Ham, as you can see on the screen. We're here tonight hosting Winchester Facts, and I've been promoted from wingman to host this evening, as my associate Jerry Martinez is here this evening with David Cappabianca. David, who's running for the Republican slot and for town clerk, and Jerry, who's running for a seat in the Selectmen's Board. Welcome to you folks, and welcome to you guys.
Thank you.
Good to be here, Mick.
Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for having us. I always wanted to be on this show.
Did you? Yeah.
From the time I was a little kid, I always wanted to be on the TV show.
You did?
That's right.
Well, here you are.
Here I am.
Well, I'm going to make you guys perform tonight. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think we're ready.
You know, I always have tough questions for
That's
you.
right, Mick.
Good.
That's why we're here.
And I think I'm gonna start off with David a little bit this evening, and ask him about. You touched on a few things the last time you were on the show here with Jerry and I, and a few others, and you touched on a few of the things that you wanted to see in your candidacy and your seat as town clerk,
Right.
and different processes and different ways of accomplishing the job of town clerk. And I just kind of want to let you go through that a little bit with us.
All right, happy to do that.
You did, and I don't mean to interrupt, but you did accomplish, or you did want to accomplish some money savings items,
Right.
And I think that's important to the taxpayers of our community to hear out how you intend and plan on doing that.
Sure. Happy again to do it. Basically, the thrust of the campaign is to save money for the town of Winchester. We are going to need to do that. We don't know exactly what's going on yet with Board of Ed, but my feeling is, you know, when the receiver finishes, I don't think we can expect our Board of Education budget to go down. My guess is we're going to be spending a little more over there, which we may not have any control over. So I think what we're going to need to do is look for real dollars anywhere we can find them to save them in our current budget. And I've got a couple ideas to do that. I have felt for a long time now, you know, it's funny, I was on the Board of Selectmen for 8 years this last time before I stepped aside. You know, because I, number one, believe in term limits, and I believe it's a good idea sometimes to step out. It gives you a fresh perspective on, you know, what's going on in the real world. You go out and get a job, and you realize, you know, what really is going on out there, how difficult times are for people. And that was when you guys asked me to step in and run. I kind of gave that some serious thought. I think we can save easily out of a $200,000 budget, more or less, 220-ish. I'm sure there's at least $50,000 in savings we can find just in that one budget alone. Now, having sat on the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and, you know, late night meetings when we were looking, you know, we were looking for $1,000 here and $800 there. You know, I can tell you $50,000 is a pretty significant chunk. And primarily where I intend to do that is staffing. And, you know, this is, you know, it's nothing detrimental to the folks that are there now. I just think that we can do it instead of 2 full-time people in that office. I believe we can do it with a full-time town clerk and a part-time assistant to fill in. You do need an extra person there, you know, if nothing else, to cover lunch breaks, but also, you know, you need somebody that can step in, you know, if the town clerk calls out sick, or, you know, is going to get a vacation from time to time. So you need another person that at least knows the operation, knows the office. I think you can do that with a part-time person, you know, 4 or 5 hours a day. You know, it gets you down to about a 20-hour work week. That would be a no-benefit position. And as I said last week when we were here, it is my intention not to get on the town benefit program. So if you were to look up the town clerk's budget, you would find that currently the line item for insurance benefits, just insurance, health insurance, is almost $45,000.
Wow.
So if I don't need that, and if the assistant town clerk goes to a part-time position, no benefit, you've already saved some $40,000. And as we know, that number is certainly not going to go down with health insurance doing what it does, the long-term impacts of Obamacare and those kinds of things. That number is only going to go up. So if you take it out of the budget altogether, that's one less thing you have to worry about. So, and that's just the insurance part of it. So if you were to again cut the position itself back to even half-time, 20 hours a week or whatever you think you need, you're saving at least another $20,000 to $25,000 just in salary obligations. So that's where I think we need to be proactive, and I think the current selectmen have tried that. I know, Jerry, you're looking to do those kinds of things, and it's going to get harder as time goes on. So I think if we start fresh this year, and just sometimes you kind of need to, people that have been entrenched for a long time can't see the potential to save money here and there, and of course they develop relationships where they don't want to put somebody out of work because they've worked together for so many years. But sometimes you have to make hard decisions, and if they're for the benefit of the town, then that's what you do. If you have to take a little heat for that, then I've never been afraid, nor have you. We've taken our share.
So be it, we used to say. I believe.
So be it. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And if we can look at all of our budget that way, I think we can find some significant dollars to save there, which will put us back on the right track. In terms of the day-to-day operation, I don't see that changing very much. What the town clerk's function is pretty well prescribed. There are statutes and record keeping and charter requirements and those kinds of things that pretty much tell you, what the town clerk's office has to do. How you do it and how you get there and how you accomplish the mission is up to the town clerk. But I know, Jerry, you and I have talked about some things like, trying to get some of the permit stuff or some of the licensing things online.
Right.
So that somebody can just go to you're a computer guy and I'm not, but we'll certainly be looking for those kinds of things. I mean, I don't see any reason why, if you need a fishing license, why shouldn't you be able to go online and get that instead of having to come into town hall?
Right.
You with your little buddy Wally getting his dog license renewed. Why shouldn't you be able to do that online? It would save traffic in the town clerk's office for one thing, and would save a lot of effort. People could take care of those things. And I know there are recording requirements, but that truly is the function of the town clerk's office, is record keeping. So if you can find more efficient ways to actually get these things issued, then they can either mail them in or drop them off, and all you do then is keep the record. You put it in the file wherever it belongs, and it's on record. So again, with the world moving, as you know, more towards computer access and online things, I read some statistics the other day that are a little bit scary to a guy like me who's I'm old school. I still have a flip phone, but people just don't function that way anymore. They're using their cell phones and their smartphones, and a lot of them are doing it online from home on their laptops. And I think our society in general is moving in that direction, and I think we need to find a way to accommodate that. People, have so many other things going on in their lives that they want to be able to, like they pay all their bills at home. You go online, pay all your bills. You sit down for, however long it takes in an evening and you're done. So I think those are the kinds of things that people like to be able to just do from, if you can, from the comfort of your home, get it done, get it over with, and it's finished. You don't have to worry about it, till the next renewal.
Yeah.
So, so I think if we can accommodate all that, I think we'll be providing a better, more proactive service through the town clerk's office at less money than we're paying for it right now. And if we can go there, I think that's a pretty significant step in the right direction. So,
I like all that, David. But a couple things I want to touch back on. And first, folks, I'll apologize. I know I've been promising to bring Wally on a show, and I was going to bring him this evening, but he had a very busy day and he was very tired. And we're trying to keep him in shape so that he can carry some campaign signs around on him as this progresses to November.
We're going to
3rd.
get a little tent sign for him to walk around.
Second thing I'll apologize for is at the beginning of the show I didn't mention, but at probably around 8 o'clock we're going to open the phones, and if anyone out there has a question for either one of these two candidates, or would just like to simply put their perspective on the table, we'd certainly like to hear from them. So around 8 o'clock, I'll tell you when, and we'll give you the number, and hopefully we can hear from some of you folks that are interested in what's happening in our community. Back to you, though, David. I was a little taken back at the beginning of your dissertation. You suggested that perhaps you might see, folks out there might see an increase in the cost of educating our children in town, and I was kind of a little taken back by that,
Right.
based on the facts of what we've been discussing with the other members of the Board of Finance and the other members of BOE, and how we can reduce those costs. And I suspect that our new superintendent or receiver would hopefully be doing the same thing. And maybe, can you enlighten me as to why you're thinking that way?
Well,
and I can respect why you're
Sure.
saying that.
Well, number one, the receiver's going to be here for at least 2 years. I think we know that already. He's got the same issues, the same union contracts that the current Board of Ed has to deal with, rising costs across the boards. Now, I'm hopeful that maybe he's going to find some ways to reduce. I also did, and I wish I'd cut out the article because I can't remember who it was attributed to, but the suggestion was that 2 years out, the comment was that you can't run your Board of Education on the MBR. It's got to be more money than that. Now that disturbs me some, because if that's a wrong number, what are they putting it out there for? I mean, if the State Board of Education is responsible for creating your minimum budget requirement, if it's too low, then what's the logic, or what's the reason?
And why don't they tell you what the town should participate in from
Well,
top of that, for budgeting purposes?
Yeah, again, so...
Well, I think what's also disturbing is that we only have 1,250 kids in the
Right.
total system, Gilbert and school district, and you're talking about projecting this year about $25 million just for the
Right.
school cost, which makes up about 66% of the town budget. So you're looking at about, on average, $20,000 per student.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems highly disturbing, and I don't know where that, we keep on saying this on each of the shows, like, where is that money going?
Exactly.
And why do we have to increase it?
Well, hopefully that's what the receiver is going to determine for us.
Yep.
Maybe the MBR is the right number, but the problem is we're just not accounting for it properly. We don't know where that money's coming from, or where actually...
I don't think that's a maybe, David.
Yeah.
I think that's a for
Right.
sure.
Okay, well...
We're not accounting for how we're spending
Well,
that money.
I agree with that.
That's the reason the receiver is here.
Right.
Egregious fiscal mismanagement.
Yeah. And I don't think there are any assumptions or allegations yet that money has gone missing any. It's just been misallocated and misspent. It wasn't spent on the items that it was budgeted for, so therefore, you have, as they say, countless funds for which you cannot account. And hopefully he's going to be able to straighten that out. Maybe that will take care of some of those issues, and we'll be able to bring that budget, back in line. And if we can, all the better to do what I'm talking about doing, because then we can actually work towards maybe either stabilizing our property taxes, or maybe looking to, which is a dream would be to reduce them. I know, most people in town, most people in any town will tell you they're overtaxed, but I know a lot of people up in Winchester, and I think, Jerry, you're going to talk a little bit about some campaigning you did up in Winchester over the weekend, and I know a lot of people in Winchester think that they're paying a lot of money for property taxes, and they don't feel like they're even remembered in the budget, I guess. Because we always talk about Winstead, and really it is the town of Winchester. Right. Winstead is a piece of that, so we need to keep all those things in mind. So if the receiver does what we all hope he does, and then we can find some additional savings, then we can really start to put things in line. And again, as town clerk, those issues are going to be out of my purview. I mean, the receiver and the Board of Ed are going to do what they have to do, because that's what they get elected to do.
Right.
And you guys on the Board of Selectmen are going to do what you need to do. My job is to focus on the town clerk's office. which is what I've done this time around, and that's where I'm getting my numbers from. So hopefully that'll fit in with whatever else goes on. So
You've also mentioned that you're assuming, or is it for sure that the town clerk's budget is now around $220,000?
It's about $220,000, and I left the numbers. I had them here last time, and I left them in my car. But looking at their budget, it's a little over $220,000. And again, I know the number for benefits is 43 and change, you know, which will go away. And I know the budget number is around $53,000 for the assistant town clerk position. It was 52 something, not counting increases. So, you know, if you cut a chunk of that out by going to a part-time person, and I understand the union issues there, which is, you know, you'd have to, you know, impact bargain and all kinds of other things to get that done. But just eliminating, you know, the health insurance portion would save us a big chunk of money. So
and that's combined between the town clerk and the assistant.
Yes, there's one line item, and in the budget, I suppose if I got the backup material, which, as you know, is a binder that's about that size, the budget that I have just has the one line item, and if you dig deeper, you can determine if it's, you know, one person, two people, however many people are covered under it.
So that's approximately $22,000 per year per person.
If it's split equally between the two of them. That's correct.
It's a lot of money.
So Dave, with that, I don't know if you have a feel for these numbers, but in the actual operation of the town clerk's office, do you have a feel for what's the breakdown as far as organizational materials and paperwork and all the stuff that actually you do to record? You know, is there some ways that we could actually modernize the operation there so that we're, you know, instead of sending out to printers to have like the charter printed out, could we do that online and just basically go to Vistaprint or somebody else and just submit the document and then have it mailed to us and save a lot of money that way? What's your feel for that as far as
I think there are some savings there operationally that you can make. In the overall scheme of things, just to put it in perspective for you, you know, you have the town clerk and the assistant town clerk that are both making over $50,000 a year. The insurance benefits in at 43 and change, so you're really more than half. You know, it's about 150,000 out of 200. So there's.
You guys are taking my questions.
Sorry.
That's good. That's good.
So you know, there's probably you know, 75,000 or so. You know, that you can work with. So how much of that you can save? Because some of it, you know, you're going to have advertising costs for referendums and budgets, and you have to buy paper, you have to have a contract on your equipment and photo or copy machine, and you know, all that kind of stuff. So some of that stuff is going to be fixed. You know, you may find some other efficiencies in there, but you know, they're not going to be the significant part of it. Most of it is going to come from the things that I've been talking about. So
the referendum costs, they actually come out of the town clerk's
office?
office?
I think the publishing costs do, at least for elections and referendums, because I think she's required to, you know, to do those, you know, to do the ads, to do the advertising and those kinds of things. But again, even those, you know, it doesn't cost much to put an ad in the newspaper.
No,
so there's not going to be, you know, the significant money. Again, we'll find efficiencies, I'm sure, in each of those little line items, but in the overall scheme of things, you know, they're not going to be as significant as the changes that I've talked about.
Okay, so you're looking at a $220,000 budget.
Right.
You're saying, without even looking at the efficiencies and reductions, perhaps inefficiencies, which may not be catastrophic for sure. You're talking about reducing a $220,000 a year budget to $160,000.
160, 170, yeah. So I'm looking at about a 25% reduction.
Folks, that's a lot of roads we could fix. $50,000, $40,000 to $50,000 a year is a lot of roads.
Yeah, and I think once the people are, I mean, they're ready for that. I know I've heard for years, you know, public employees, you know, overpaid, underworked, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I don't really need to get into that conversation, but I think it'll resonate with people when you start talking about just changing the culture is what we really need to do of the town hall and how it works. And, you know, I think some of that has I think some of that has started a little bit already, but
It's not as user-friendly as it could be.
no, and I think we can change that too. You know, and again, that's going to be a matter of, you know, then it's not going to be so much up to me. It'll be because I only have one part of that function. But when you guys get a new town manager, somebody's got to get in there that can help to build morale a little bit. You know, put people a little more at ease, because I understand, you know, there are some tensions every day in town hall just because of the things that have gone in the past. So, you know, I think now if we can, as you keep talking about, Jerry, renew or reboot. You know, if we can kind of start over, you know, it's a good time to start looking at all the things I'm talking about, looking at all of those things in the other departments. If you got a new town manager coming in, we've got a receiver that's going to hopefully repair the school system. I think it's a good time to start looking forward, you know, to see where all this is going, and I think we can do that. Republicans have always led the way on those kinds of things. Win, lose, or draw, we always put the information out there and take a shot at it. You know, and again, it's always easy to get entrenched and stop thinking about, you know,
What the wants and needs of the community are.
as opposed to what the wants and needs of the employees are.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I think that's where we need to go.
I couldn't agree more. You touched on a few of the things as well. With Jerry has stepped up to the plate, whether you know it or not. I'm pretty sure you do that, and he's come forward and helped with some of the computer glitches or computer issues that we had in town hall. And maybe, Jerry, is there some of that you can enlighten David with in the town clerk's office? And would that be something you'd be willing to do if you're elected?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think what it comes down to, and David's brought up a number of good points, one of them being that, you know, in order to operate properly as a town, we have to have the correct organizational structure that's in the town hall. Right now we have a compartmentalized orientation. Each person is responsible for their own little thing. There's really no intercommunication going on. There's no shared data between departments or even the citizens.
Right.
You know, it's very difficult to get information. One of the things I would like to see David do is you know, as he starts to cut back on a number of things, the responsibilities, and trying to automate, is really to help and facilitate the integration of information, get people talking to each other in town hall, so that you have not these walls that are, you know, you sort of talk about that. Once you get entrenched, you sort of build up defenses and walls. And so I'd like to see that actually come down, and I see that as a perfect role for as you get other things online and automated. It's going to free you up to say, okay, where are we having communication problems? Who doesn't know this? How come residents can't get their particular permit information or what have you? So I think it could be an exciting position. And I think that the town is ready to take advantage of the new technologies, which are really not that expensive anymore. You can actually do quite a bit without expending a lot of dollars. So I would think, as the town clerk, it's an exciting time to actually be there and to find out, like, how do you optimize? Like I mentioned, right now I know for the fact that the charter, each time there's a charter requires printing, we actually go to a local printer. That's the type of thing that you could just upload the Word document, and then a week later you get, you know, your documents printed for, you know, a really good price. So those are the type of things that I can envision you taking advantage of, and say, you know, where can we use technology in town hall, and how do we facilitate all this information? So you get this concept where you have the right information for the right person at the right time. Which gets back to you. I should be able to sit in my pajamas and handle my permits. Or submit a building, you know, submit an application to the planning and zoning, for that matter. Why do I have to make the trek? And like you said, I live in Winchester Center, and it takes a bit of time to get down from there to here. I'd love to be able to do a lot more stuff online. And I know that a lot of people would, even on your phone. It'd be great just to check on the status of things. So I think that's pretty exciting.
I'm pretty excited about the two of you guys. I mean, because you communicate so well, I'm pretty excited about seeing your technology and David's and mine, because we're both the same age. But you know, we're not that computer savvy. I mean, that's what you do for a living. I thank you, and I thank the folks in the community. Obviously, thank you for your help and stepping up and helping the town in the last few months and attributing to solving some of those problems that they had.
Yeah, I was basically trying to help out with the website because there's a lot of issues. It took a long time to get out the door.
Right.
I really couldn't understand why that was happening, and a lot of it has to do with the actual software package that they picked.
Right.
One of the problems that we have right now is that you can't really access it from your mobile device. You sort of have to play around with the screen. And I actually had a meeting with Mark and the president of the software company that provides our web system that's used for townofwinchester.org. And so I talked with him for about a half hour a while back, and he explained all the technical difficulties that they're having. So it was good to have, and I know Mark was happy, as our purchasing and IT person, he was happy to actually have somebody come in who could talk the talk and be able to talk intelligently with these people. One of the things I'd like to do once we, if and when, but when, I know Mickey says when we do take the majority on the Board of Selectmen, is to actually set up an Information Technology Commission, much in the same way as the Economic Development Commission or the Planning and Zoning, and have a team of people who are technologically astute and can basically provide guidance for this and other systems. Like I also recommended to the Public Works Department, Jim Rollins, a great web-based public works management software, so that you could actually, residents could actually identify potholes and missing signs or whatever, log in online, post it, and then be able to track the progress of that. So that's the type of thing that really starts to pull the community together, gets people active, get them really interested in how their government works, and let them know that something's actually happening. I think right now, and you alluded to this earlier, Mick, this town hall is sort of like this black hole. You hope for the best, and you tell them things, and you might get lucky. And I think with a different organizational structure and with the technology in order to facilitate that, I think we can actually turn this town and actually fix a lot of the problems that we have, so we can start growing it and actually thriving as a community like we did before the flood came in and wiped out half the downtown.
Spoken like a true great man, Ronald Reagan. Take the walls down.
Take the walls down.
I like that. I like that. And I think...
I mean, it's true. I mean, it really comes down to that.
There's no reason that people should be on edge when they enter town hall and worried about what they're going to do and what they're going to hear and how things are going to get done. I mean, there's not an awful lot of help, and when you go in there as a lay person to get a building permit or something like that, and and everybody, you're cutting staff, and I disagree with that. I mean, it's a matter of discipline and the personality that you want to portray to people. If you want to be helpful to people, you can be helpful to people. If you want to be a deterrent, you can be a deterrent. And personally, I don't want to see my tax dollars, and I don't think the folks out there want to see their tax dollars being spent on deterrence. They want to see cooperation and the ability of people to work together and have a good perspective and have a good community, because though it starts at the heart, and town hall's the heart of the community.
Well, I think it also starts at the top. And one of the things as I've been on the campaign trail, talking to various residents around town, they really want to have a strong Board of Selectmen. They want to have strength not only on the financial side to make those tough financial decisions, but they also want to have a team of players that are overseeing the actual operation of the town. And we've talked about this in previous episodes of the show, where I see, and you do as well, the town manager as the chief operation officer for a town, and the Board of Selectmen and the mayor as the CEO, board of directors. And I think previously, up to this point, the town manager has sort of been a political pawn,
for sure,
in town. And I think that in my talks with Dale Martin, because I haven't been on the Planning and Zoning Board, Dale's on there as the liaison for the Planning Department. Dale and I have had several conversations about the organizational structure and his role actually in the way the town operates. And he told me several times that he would have liked to have had a little bit more strength from the Board of Selectmen, basically said out, here's what we want you to do, Dale. Here's the timeline, here's everything, and then he could actually execute. instead of trying to guess and try to get political favor. I'm just I don't know if that's actually the case with him, but we had some really good in-depth talks about that, and it's unfortunate that that he left, because one of the things that I was hoping to do was actually work with him to actually find out what is it about town hall. Have a strong board that can basically give him the muscle in order to get things changing.
Oh, I agree, and I think I've heard Dale say before is, I wish they would give me some direction.
Right.
And in his position, he needs that, because he's the guy who's got to carry out their wants and wishes.
And we're the elected officials,
right.
So we represent the people.
Right, right. So essentially, it seems like it's a little unfair, because the town manager takes a lot of heat for what the CEOs, the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, should be directing the COO, town manager, to do. And I think that's why people are saying they want to see a stronger management system from the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, because they understand how the charter works.
Right.
And they understand how this form of government works. Although that could be a whole topic for discussion at another time. But I think if you let it work and you let the process work, and process is important, as we all know.
Right.
It can work and it can function very well.
Yeah, I know there's some critics out there who say, "Well, Jerry, you're full of it. You're just going to try to micromanage all the employees."
No.
Well, I think that you have to have strong leadership at the top,
Yep.
strong managerial skills to say, why aren't our potholes being filled up?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that's getting in the way of the Public Works Department? Right. We're not saying that the Public Works guys are necessarily goofing off or doing something else. It's really, what is the process? What's the procedure? How do you actually go about this? And I think that's really the role of the Board of Selectmen, to basically say, okay, Chief Operating Officer, Town Manager, why are we having these problems? How come we don't have an online dog permit system? What does it take in order to get there?
How can we fix it?
How can we fix it? Exactly. And I think and the real thing is that until you actually start getting the core of all these issues, and there's a number of them, but I don't think they're insurmountable, is that how do you start fixing up one after another, sooner or later you're going to start to get to a point where the town is actually functioning. Right. I don't think the town is actually functioning as a town, and I think that's what frustrates a number of the people who are watching out here, is that how come this town doesn't function like Canton or Avon or Torrington, for that matter. Torrington is a bigger city, a lot more issues at hand, but somehow Torrington is able to redevelop their downtown. They're able to do a lot more things, and we just sort of seem like we're treading water.
Well, as Mickey said, they have a mayoral form of government, and that's a whole discussion for another day. We've been down that road once, and
but I think
maybe we should go there again. But
I think if you make the Board of Selectmen strong,
right,
and that would give strength to the town manager.
Right.
And then now you have a well-organized, well-structured command control type system to get things done.
Exactly. And ironically, whoever, well, I shouldn't say whoever, when you and your team get elected to the Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, you should actually have more time to delegate this, because now essentially the issue of the Board of Education, which used to loom over everyone on that board, it's a dark cloud, because you never had the answers. You never knew what was going to happen. You couldn't plan a budget based on the information they gave you. So now you should have a better funnel of information coming from there. So it should free up more time for you to concentrate on the mediocre issues of making our town government function based on how it's created.
Right. Well, it's 66% of the budget, as we just talked about.
Yeah.
One of the things that, and as people know based on watching the show, is that the town of Winchester doesn't really control the Board of Ed. It's actually a state entity, which is why the receiver was put here. But the real thing here is, and I hope I can get a conversation going with our Board of Ed candidates and him, to basically say, how do we open the data lines between the Board of Education and the Board of Finance? And as I've talked about in the past, I'm a big open data guy.
That was an issue you and I had on. We had in our administration to get accomplished. That went away really fast when we left office. Folks,
But with that is to have. I didn't mean to cut you off, but just quickly, to have a shared accounting system.
Yes.
Between the two,
It's a necessity.
Yeah, just so we can see what's
Absolute
going
necessity.
on. Just so we can see what's going on.
We've been
Folks,
talking.
I'm just one side.
go
I'm
ahead.
just. It's
Everybody wants to
8:03.
talk.
It's 8:03, and I just want to, Chris, if you can open those phone lines for us, and if callers and folks, you out there have any questions for Jerry or David here, certainly call in, and we'll be happy to get you the answers that you need. I'm sorry. Now you guys
that's
go ahead.
okay.
I just had to get that. in
What's-
No,
there.
that's it. The show's done. I'm done. Right
That's
now.
all we have. Well, what's interesting, Jerry, is the what the Board of Selectmen has to understand also is that they work as a group, and when decisions are made as a group, they give instructions to the town manager, and then he goes off and he has to implement
Accomplish it,
and
yeah.
accomplish. There's always the danger, and it's always going on in this town. We've been having this battle with town managers for as long as I can remember. We turn them over on average 2.5 to 3 years, and a town manager form of government never works. When you turn over a town manager, you lose the consistency
Right.
that you
momentum.
need and the momentum. So if the Board of Selectmen agrees, all right, we can disagree and agree to disagree, but once we've made a decision, the motion is on the table and passed, these are going to be his directions. You can't be out there trying to undercut, what he's doing. He's got to have the confidence to know he, she, whomever, has got to have the confidence to know that they're going to go out there and do the job they were told to do by the CEO, which in this case is the Board of Selectmen, and not have to worry about somebody taking a swipe at them here and there and undermining that. What that'll also do is, I think, fix some of the problems that you were talking about in town hall. If the town manager is confident that all he's got to do is do his job and do it well, he'll be able to open lines of communication with the rest of the town hall staff.
Exactly.
He'll start to build the morale up again, start to build a team, start to put things together so that the town hall can work together.
Functionally.
And not be defensive all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And you could then, if you have employees, you can actually set up a system where you could share. Now, there are times of the year when the tax collector's office is way busier than other times. Well, okay, getting tax bills out or taking payments and doing all of the things that need to happen in there at the busier times of the year. If you could pull somebody from another department for 2 or 3 hours a day, to help her through the hump. Or even in the assessor's office or the building department, whenever they're busiest, if you can move people around a little bit, again, you'll create better communication within town hall because everybody will know what everybody else is doing, and I think everybody will be happier. A big part of creating that atmosphere when you talk when you walk into town hall is, if your employees are comfortable in their job and they're happy when they go to work, that's gonna follow through in how they present themselves to the public.
Yeah, morale is high.
So-
Well, I also think you bring up an interesting point. Is how do you get the various departments understanding what the other departments do and what the value
Right.
points are there,
That's
so
the
that
data,
so
yeah.
that they can understand. Well, during tax season, twice a year, we know that those people are going to be overloaded.
Yeah.
Which means we have to adjust ourselves because we know exactly what they're going to go through, and maybe we can actually, from a purchasing standpoint, maybe we can make sure that our forms are done like a month earlier,
Right.
and that way everybody's thinking as components of a much larger
It becomes
organism.
a coordinated effort.
It becomes
as
one
opposed to-
organism
right.
instead of all these little
Right.
type of fiefdoms that
Right.
exist. And I think, once again, with the help of you sort of organizing, being the data information
Sure.
cheerleader, I think you'll be able to sort of
Right.
see where areas could
Right.
be helped.
Let's go off onto a little different subject
All right.
now. I know you were out campaigning a little bit
Yeah.
over the weekend or during the week. I'm not sure which, but perhaps you could enlighten me and tell me what your results were and what you found out there.
Well, being my first time out on the campaign trail, it went a little bit slower than I anticipated, and I think everybody sort of gets that. But I went out with my good friend John Pollock, who's running for the Board of Ed,
Yep.
and we went out yesterday on Columbus Day, and we were basically did something different. We decided, instead of focusing on the high...
do we have a
Oh, we have a
caller?
caller.
Caller, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. I think you guys are doing a tremendous job this evening. It's very good to hear David's thoughts on how to improve the esprit de corps in town hall.
Thank you.
I think that has been completely destroyed over the last 3 years. We have had some town managers in Winstead who have been excellent leaders of the town hall staff. I don't think for 3.5 years or 3 years, whatever it's been, we have had that leadership. We've had an individual who has assumed far too many responsibilities himself, including telling the Economic Development Commission that it was not permitted to go out and recruit new business for the town. Only he could do that, and that the Economic Development Commission was purely and simply an advisory group for his purposes.
Well,
obviously, he didn't read the town charter in that regard. He took over the job as town planner, and that's why, Jerry, you say he is there. He's not the liaison. He is there as the town planner working with Planning and Zoning Commission. Without the skills necessary, I think we are at a breakthrough point where we can once again bring in somebody to operate, to function, as the town charter calls it, as a chief executive officer for the town, and that's how the charter describes the town manager position. We have not had that. We've had somebody who has been a political tool thus far, and it is time that we turn it around. We take back control of this community through our elected officials, our Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Education as well, to take back control of the town and make sure things happen, but also to have in that corner office on the 3rd floor somebody who is going to be a leader of the troops in town hall to motivate better performance, to motivate increased efficiency in the functions of town hall. Now, I'm talking an awful lot. I want to listen to you guys.
all right. I think most of those functions are being taken care of, as we've got a town planner who's on board now, and they'll be stepping down from those issues. And obviously Dale has resigned and will be out looking for a new town manager, which can become a long-term venture. But thank you, caller, for your call.
Let me make a few points to that. I agree with the caller that the town manager's office has basically been a political tool.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that sort of disturbs me is the fact that he quotes the charter. The charter also has rules for the Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
And they need to make resolutions for the town manager to execute. So it's just not the town manager as the executive. I know a lot of people in the town try to think that, but it's really, there's actually a symbiotic relationship between the Board of Selectmen Finance and the town manager. And that's where I'm coming from when I say you need to have a strong Board of Selectmen, both Democrat and Republican, that are going to basically make sure that the town manager is executing what the desires of the people are. And that's why you and I both call it the operations manager, because he is responsible for the execution and operation of the town. And it's up to the Board of Selectmen to basically make sure that their wishes and the wishes of the people who voted for them are being taken care of.
Exactly.
Well, and if we can get there, then all of the rest of that stuff that we've been talking about
falls right into place.
Will gradually start to change. And, we can turn it around. And again, I think right now is a great time, because we're really undergoing change. We've got an election this year. We've got hopefully the receiver's going to straighten out whatever, at least the accounting functions. The biggest complaint I remember, even back when we were on the board, this is almost gets silly at some points. We tried to get the two accounting systems merged, and that was 10 years ago. And we started talking about
7
it.
years ago.
Yeah.
We started talking about it probably 8 years ago. But we pretty
even,
much had that
right.
done, but it was.
Well, they needed to get the software and the computer system. They need to merge them.
Right.
In fact, even before we were on together, when Jay Case and I were on together, we were talking about that.
Doing it, yeah.
Because you have these two completely separate systems, and of course now, again, I hate to be recalling history, but we know now why the two systems never got merged, because they would have made everything more accountable, and things certainly weren't accounted for. So
corruption may have been expelled sooner. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little shuffling going around, a little laundering.
So hopefully, if it really is a good time for the town, to get things turned around, get started in a new direction. As you keep talking about, Jerry, reboot it. That's again for us guys. Reboot. Yeah, okay, what's that? But somebody earlier said
he's
fix
been an
it.
amazing guy since I've gotten to know him.
So
I'm telling you, you spend a few hours with him, you're going to know a lot more about computers. And
well,
do a lot more
I know.
things.
Well, it's actually more. It goes beyond the computers. I mean, this city or the town was actually a thriving commercial and cultural center 50 some odd years ago. Granted, the flood took a lot of that away, but even since then, there's been this morass, this toxicity that's been in the town. And I think after all the issues that we had with the financial meltdown a couple of years ago, and now with the educational meltdown, I think the people who are out there who are watching and are going to be voting in November, they're ready for a reboot.
Right.
They want this town to be like a Canton or I'll say it, Great Barrington, because that seems to be the favorite of many people in this town. But it's true. People are tired. I know I am when you go to hit the restaurants downtown. It's basically pizza or pasta. What's going to be your choice? There's no life. There's no diversity. There's no Starbucks. There's nothing that brings people in.
Right.
If you look at all your Panera Bread or any of these places where you can actually hang out with a cup of coffee and a snack or something like that, that actually brings people in.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and Wi-Fi and the computers and this, Mick, my oldest son, he's down in San Antonio now. He says, I have no desire to come back to Connecticut and especially Winsted. Why? Why are we losing the 20-somethings and they're just leaving?
Both my daughters are gone too.
Yeah.
David's children.
My three kids will be going. Well, two are gone. One's because they're also there's not the diversity in England. Actually, in New England, plus it's expensive to stay here. People look at just with the heating costs and the taxes and our governor killing us every time we turn around with taxes. It's just a difficult place to live, and a lot of people look at it and say, and I was talking to some folks that retired not too long ago. I won't mention their names, but and they moved off to Georgia. They bought a little bit more of a house than they had here. Their property taxes are half what they were paying here. Georgia doesn't tax Social Security income. They only tax a little piece of your retirement income, whereas Connecticut taxes it all.
Oh.
So, he estimated just by moving out of state, it was going to save him $15,000 to $18,000 a year in costs just by moving to another place. I don't know how we address that. That's an issue for
well, that's actually only part of the problem. But if you go to like a city like San Francisco or New York or Silicon Valley, where you can't even buy a house now for under $1 million, a small ranch, 2-bedroom house, they're making money out there. You go down into the Texas area, it's a little bit lower standard of living, but it's thriving.
Right.
There's activity, there's people moving down there, there's business. One of the reasons why I'm trying to reboot the town and actually create Winchester 2.0 is to basically restore the industry, but do the new industry, which is technology, it's your energy companies, it's the non-invasive type technology, which brings the younger people. I'd love to create like a Silicon Hills modeled on Silicon Valley, where Winstead is isolated enough so that you could actually have people come into sort of a technology enclave, and you'd bring the 20-somethings, 30-somethings, and you could get these startups, and you start to get the Starbucks, you start to get Indian cuisine, you start to get all the stuff that goes along with a vibrant young development community. So I think people don't have a problem living in Canton or West Hartford or Glastonbury. You know, they're making money. There's life there. There's activity. Here, there's not. And I think with the natural resources that we have, the remoteness of the town, you know, where it takes quite a bit just to get to Canton or to get to Great Barrington. We are geographically isolated in such a way that we could actually have our own self-sustaining downtown, if just given the opportunity to do it.
And you know, we lost all that industry 50 years ago, as you said. You know, the Gilbert clock shops, the machine shops, and so forth that were here. And we failed to address how we were going to progress, and in what direction and in what an industry. And you know, I've always been enthusiastic about your talks of bringing tech industries into our community, because those tech industries that occupy a lot of these empty warehouses that we have lining Main Street, and also would create enthusiasm on Main Street with the people here, and create a revenue source that would be active for the community.
And they're good paying jobs, and I think we all recognize that for the most part the manufacturing industries that we've lost they're just not coming back to Connecticut. Never mind Winsted. They're not, you know, they can't afford to do business here. You know, they can do it cheaper somewhere else. So,
but here's the real issue with Winsted, though. You can't even start at that point, getting to the fixing side of this, because there's no prime office space downtown. We are actually losing businesses to New Hartford, to other places, Norfolk, because we do not have prime office space that's downtown. I know Marty Golden's trying to set up some lofts on Bridge Street, but it's for a smaller segment, more of a small office artist type thing. I'm talking about, how do you get architectural firms? How do you get large law firms? How do you get the professional class back in downtown? And how do you get that bigger office space? I've learned that since one of our shows passed, that we actually have high-speed fiber that's running along Route 44, and it's going up the Route 8 corridor. Once again, we're sitting on resources
that we're not even using.
And it's because we do not have a strong board of selectmen that has vision and can actually move the town forward, and also take care of the infrastructure needs that you need in order to make that happen.
Bring your infrastructure back. Bring your schools back, you'll start to attract people again. And I'm a firm believer in that. And if you can demonstrate an industry, as you've demonstrated, and David and you have talked about, and I've talked with you about, it's a win-win for Winsted. It's doubles the win in Winsted, it really does.
One of the things I don't think a lot of people realize is that there's a lot of money that's sitting on the sidelines right now. They're waiting to see how this election turns out. They're ready to invest in a number of the mill buildings downtown. And it's not like the games we were playing with Lambert K and some of these other, or our Capital Products, and trying to have a GoFundMe campaign in order to raise $500 in order to this is serious dollars. And I think the voters need to understand that your vote is more critical now than at any other time in this town. Not only from what we've talked about tonight, but there are people who are literally waiting at the door to come in with investment. So if we make the right changes in Town Hall, make the right infrastructure improvements, and change the way we go about doing our business and actually act as a community. I know some people, some of our fellow politicians out there, they talk about how we need to have community, but I don't see it. We talk about community, but nobody's actually getting together. This is the perfect opportunity with this election in order to get everybody together, act as one organism with a shared consciousness, so that we can actually move this town into the future.
Well, we've talked, and we're kind of running out of time.
We're running out of time. We always have that problem, Mick, right?
We've gone downtown again, and I know you've mentioned some of you started on this, and we got interrupted by the
caller threw me off. So real quick, I was walking a number of houses out in outside of Winchester Center area, and decided to take a different tact. I know a lot of the politicians like to focus on the high density areas down here in Winsted and also around the lake. And I got to thinking, you know, I'm one of these people who's out in the hinterlands, and we have a lot of frustration because we always feel that Winsted gets a lot of and the lake side of things get a lot of the attention. Now, I live up in Winchester Center. I live on a dirt road that looks like it's been bombed every other week. Actually had to start taking care of some things on my own, but you know, I take care of my own trash. We don't have water service, so we're pretty much on our own. And even when the winter time, when the snows come up, we get a lot of drifting, and there's a lot of things that we actually take care of ourselves. It's a hardy group of people up in the hills, but still, we started talking, and there's a lot of things that people say, nobody really understands the outer ring of what comprises Winchester as a town.
Yep.
And a lot of the focus has just been on Winsted and the schools, but we have some of the worst roads. I think it's been said we have about 88 miles or 89 miles of road, and a lot of that is out in the Winchester area. As you go up to Norfolk, as you go out to Torrington, Newfield, we've talked about that several times, and that's just something that should have been taken care of a number of years ago at a cost of about $300,000. Now it's well over $1 million. So once again, strong leadership from the Board of Selectmen. If we took care of things when we needed to, and we were keeping tabs on Henry Centrella and all the other stuff that was going on, we could have actually been fixing our roads without having to go get extra bonding or other things, because we would have had the money and we would have understood what was going on. So I think it gets back to this, as we were talking about, how do you set up the wherewithal and the infrastructure and the power structure so that the Board of Selectmen are actually representing the people that voted them, and to be able to drive the direction.
So, did you want to say something to the people of Winchester and then all this? Or?
I don't know. No, actually, what I want to say to them is, look, I come from the hills, and I've been there for about 10 years, and have suffered through a number of power outages and snowstorms and all sorts of stuff. And it's actually enough of an elevation up there, so that actually we have different weather up in the area compared to what's down here. So we tend to have a more take it on your own type attitude, do it yourself type thing. But I think we're getting frustrated that we're not really getting the benefit.
Feel forgotten.
Forgotten. And then, when you see $25 million going for the school and that's 66% of your budget, what's left for the people who actually are doing a lot of stuff on their own and don't really ask a whole lot.
So what you're saying is you're going to be more of an advocate for the...
I'm going to be an advocate for the outer rim, the hinterlands. So
I just want to, if I could take just a minute. I understand what you were saying a minute ago, Jerry, about a little more diversity in the kinds of businesses that we have down in of restaurants. It's either Italian or pizza. I don't think we ought to, and I know you agree with this, and I agree with you, a little more variety would be nice, but we should remember that we do have some excellent businesses in town. Businesses like ABC Pizza House has been there for 45 years.
Yeah, that's our favorite.
What Alan Nero has done with the Gilson. We've got Monaco's, we've got Mario's. So we have some really good restaurants, and they do offer more of a traditional, as well as the Italian. You can get a lot of other stuff in there, and they're doing a great job. They're always busy. If you drive through town, as you know, on a Friday or Saturday night, get a place to park on Main Street. Everybody's going gangbusters. So, but it would be nice if we can turn things around like you're talking about. Then there will be a demand for those other types of fares that, without impacting the businesses that are already here, because it'll be a whole different clientele. So, I think we need to recognize that we do have a lot of assets here, and we need to, as you said, grow and expand on them and bring some more stuff in. So.
It's all revenue. It's all revenue source for the community.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing that we're lacking. And I think you guys have touched on a lot of subjects tonight that encourage that revenue line to become more appropriate. And I think the ideas that you guys have presented tonight, especially Jerry with what he's got.
Yeah, I see we got a little bit of time left. All I want to say is, just to leverage off what you're saying here, is that we need to get more people coming into town, whether it's new businesses coming in, new residents, or just people coming in. And I think we need to get that to such a point that we have more people coming in, so that more people are paying less taxes. So we have less people, less tax burden on the voters and the homeowners. So. Thanks for having me on your show, Mick.
That's us wrap up. I got my signs here. If anybody wants them, call me at home. I'm listed in the phone book. Leave me a message. I'll be happy to get a sign in your yard if you'd like to support me for.
And Jerry's got some signs coming, and I think some of the other candidates have got some more coming.
Yeah, for those that are interested, the main campaign signs that I identify at the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Ed, those signs are going to be coming early next week. So if you're interested, go to wingop.org and check that out.
Well, with all that, boy, we got a lot in tonight. Again, it seems like there's always a lot of missing pieces that we can touch back on our next show. But thank you guys for coming, and I think the folks out there got a good insight as to where David wants to go with his run for town clerk, and where Jerry's going with his run for Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. And with that, I think we'll say good night, folks.
Good night.
And I always say good night, Jerry.
Good night, Mick. We'll see you later next time.
Thank you.